The subtropical paradise of Northland, New Zealand, has been transformed into a landscape of isolation and destruction. Following a relentless atmospheric river that dumped over 300 millimeters of rain in less than 24 hours, the region remains under a state of regional emergency. As of Friday, March 27, 2026, thousands of residents are grappling with the aftermath of what local officials are calling an unprecedented hydrological event that has severed critical transport links and displaced hundreds of families. The crisis began in the early hours of Thursday, when a slow-moving subtropical low stalled over the far north. What was initially forecasted as a heavy rain watch rapidly escalated into a red weather warning, the highest level of alert issued by Met Service. By 3 a.m. Thursday, the Awanui River in Kaitaia breached its banks. The surge was so rapid that many residents in the low-lying town center were woken by the sound of sirens and water lapping at their doorsteps.
No fear.
Civil defense crews, working alongside New Zealand Defence Force personnel, executed a daring midnight evacuation, moving over 150 elderly and vulnerable residents to higher ground. It wasn't just rain, it was a wall of water, says Kaitaia local, Mereana Te Wake. 1 minute the street was dry, the next my car was floating. We've seen floods before, but nothing with this kind of ferocity. The geographical isolation of Northland has always been a challenge, but the current flooding has turned the region into a series of islands. State Highway 1, SH1, the lifeline of the north, has suffered catastrophic damage. The Mangamuka Gorge, already fragile from previous year's storms, has been closed indefinitely following a series of major slips that have physically moved sections of the roadbed. Further south, the Brynderwyn Hills remain under constant monitoring, with authorities warning that the saturated ground poses an ongoing risk of spontaneous collapse. In Kaeo, perhaps the hardest-hit township, State Highway 10 remains submerged. Aerial footage reveals a town entirely surrounded by a vast inland sea, with only the rooftops of commercial buildings visible above the brown, debris-laden water. Northland's primary industries, farming and horticulture, are facing a bleak outlook. Initial assessments from Federated Farmers Northland suggest that thousands of hectares of pasture are currently under silt. In the Kaipara district, several dairy farms have been unable to milk cows due to power outages and flooded sheds, leading to the heartbreaking necessity of dumping thousands of liters of milk. The fruit bowl of the far north has seen significant orchard damage. Beyond the immediate crop loss, farmers fear root rot, caused by the prolonged saturation of the volcanic soil. In Whangarei, the region's largest city, the CBD suffered flash flooding on Thursday afternoon, forcing the closure of dozens of businesses. The economic recovery is expected to cost the region hundreds of millions of dollars in infrastructure repair and lost productivity. Despite the devastation, the Northland spirit has emerged as a beacon of hope. Community hubs and marae, Maori meeting grounds, have opened their doors to anyone in need. In Owakura, a coastal community that was hit twice by floods in early 2023, locals have organized mud brigades to help neighbors clear silt from their homes. "We are tired, yes," says community leader John Henderson, "but we are resilient. We look after our own." Emergency Management Minister, alongside local mayors, visited the region on Friday morning via helicopter. The government has already triggered an initial $500,000 mayoral relief fund, with promises of significant Phase 2 funding for roading and infrastructure. However, the conversation is quickly shifting toward climate adaptation. This marks the fourth 1-in-100-year flood event to hit the region in just 5 years. "We can no longer just fix the roads," says Northland Regional Council Chair. "We need to talk about managed retreat in some areas and massive investment in flood diversion schemes. The climate has changed, and our infrastructure is currently losing the battle." State of emergency remains in place for at least another 6 days. Water conservation. Residents in Kaikohe must conserve water as the local treatment plant struggles with high turbidity. Wakakotahi, NZTA, urges all motorists to stay off the roads. If travel is essential, check the journey planner for real-time updates. Floodwaters are contaminated with sewage and farm runoff. Avoid contact and ensure all surfaces are disinfected. The rain has eased to a drizzle, but with the ground at 100% saturation, even a minor shower could trigger new slips. For now, Northland waits for the water to recede, facing a long and difficult road to recovery. Meanwhile, Auckland Council said the city had fared pretty well from the heavy wind and rain. Multiple sites across the region recorded more than 100 millimeters rain over 24 hours, with total rainfall exceeding 100 millimeters at 64 of 80 sites, and greater than 150 millimeters at 12 sites. Warkworth, Albany, North Shore, and the eastern side of the Waitakere Ranges had the most rainfall. Wind gusts reached 70 to 100 kilometers per hour, with exposed areas up to 115 kilometers per hour. Council arborists responded to around 98 call-outs relating to fallen trees, broken branches, and clearing blocked roads. This included a large pine tree down on Eastern Beach, a branch causing a local power outage in Onehunga, and a large kanuka tree down in Titirangi. The council's call center received 105 stormwater call-outs, 145 maintenance calls related to weather events, 242 calls related to roading, 55 civil defense/emergency services calls. Adam Maggs, Auckland Emergency Management General Manager, said, "Overall, we've fared well, and I want to thank all Aucklanders for following our advice to stay safe. Our thoughts are with our neighbors in Northland who have been particularly impacted, and with other parts of New Zealand yet to experience the weather impacts. We will continue to support other regions as needed." Meanwhile, a section of State Highway 35 will close from 8 p.m. tonight at the site of the Punaruku Slip between Te Araroa and Hicks Bay. The New Zealand Transport Agency said it had been monitoring the slip closely during the heavy rain watch, and that rainfall had exceeded predetermined safety thresholds. The closure is being made proactively to keep everyone safe overnight, NZTA said. The road at the slip is still in a very fragile state, so we're closing it to protect road users. Fire and Emergency NZ's Te Tai Tokerau Northland District Commander Wipari Henwood said the latest weather event had taken a real toll on communities across the region. "I want to give a huge thank you to all our volunteers who have been out in challenging conditions, and to their whānau who hold things down at home while they serve. Your dedication keeps our communities safe," he said. "While it will take time to fully assess the damage left behind, and with more rain likely on Monday, we're not out of the woods yet. Please stay prepared, stay informed, and look out for one another." Margaret Tolliday and her husband were evacuated from their Kaitaia home last night, an experience she described as pretty frightening. Initially, the couple weren't aware just how serious the situation was. "At first, we didn't know the banks had burst, so we were sitting up at home thinking, oh well, we'll just stay awake and see what happens," Tolliday said. Concern quickly escalated after a friend, who had earlier urged them to pack a bag, called again and told them to look outside. "My husband stepped out and the water was up to his ankles," she said. "Then he walked down to the end of the driveway and it was up to his waist. That's when we realized it was pretty dire." The fire brigade was called in to evacuate the pair using a Unimog vehicle, a moment Tolliday recalls with a touch of humor. "A Unimog is great to climb into when you're about 20 or 21, she laughed. "But when you're a little bit older, it's a bit more difficult." A soaking for the Coromandel Peninsula over the past 24 hours, with rain trackers outside of Coromandel town recording 347 millimeters of rain. The owners of the Holden EH and a 1954 Chevrolet were visiting from Dunedin to attend Repco's Beach Hop event, Paroa Towing Services owner Mike Small said. They were staying in a local Airbnb when the weather closed in. Small was in Wiritoa at the time, ready to help, and successfully extracted both cars. Elsewhere in the region, Whitianga recorded 200 millimeters plus of rain, according to Thames Coromandel District Council Mayor Peter Revel, creating a high level of surface water. He said several hundred homes in the north of the peninsula were affected by power outages, including some in Coromandel town. There had been no threat of life reports and no reported house flooding, and the worst of the weather seems to have passed, he said. Fire and emergency. New Zealand said 13 call-outs were made between the hours of 5 p.m. Thursday night and 6 a.m. Friday morning, ranging from fallen trees in the Waikato and the Bay of Plenty regions to roofs blowing off in the Waikato. Additional calls were made on Friday morning about more fallen trees and flooding in the Waikato and Coromandel areas. Looking forward, Met Service has removed any weather warnings in the Coromandel. We expect the weather to improve later this evening, Civil Defense and Emergency Manager Brian Carter said.